Lonzo Ball is without a doubt one of the most talented point guards in the entire NBA, but this past offseason, the New Orleans Pelicans failed to sign him to a new contract despite his contemporaries like Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, and Bam Adebayo signing their respective max extensions. And of course, this prompted assumptions that the Pelicans weren't sold on Lonzo being a part of the organization moving forward, and that they were ready to trade the fourth-year point guard at any given time. But after the deadline passed, despite listening to multiple offers, the Pelicans haven't traded Lonzo and is still with the team. And with this, whether deliberately or not, I think the Pelicans have put themselves in a great position to keep a key piece of their young core moving forward. While definitely, Ball isn't quite where he was projected at draft night in 2017 yet, but so far this season, he's been showing that he's on his way to becoming one of the best point guards in the entire NBA. But realistically, what are the chances that the Pelicans would match any offer that other teams trying to acquire Lonzo may put on the table? And would that even be the right thing to do if you were the Pels front office? So what's good guys, it's Rero Balls here, and today, we'll dive deeper on the reality of Lonzo Ball's transformation into a potential elite point guard, and we'll look into why or why not the Pelicans should view him as the franchise's point guard of the future. But before we move on, make sure to hit that like button if you happen to enjoy this video. It only takes a second of your time, but it helps the channel's content reach more people and it will be much appreciated. So let's get to it. Lonzo Ball was heavily criticized by both fans and the media after a disappointing performance in the Orlando bubble, as he put up a forgettable stat line of 7 points, 6.6 assists, and 5 rebounds per game while shooting a poor 30.5% from the field and only 28% from 3. Well, of course, those numbers are passable for some people, but definitely not for a starting point guard who is heavily relied to play a key role for the Pelicans' young core alongside Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. And even during the first 5 weeks of the 2021 regular season, Lonzo was still being knocked on by critics because of his 30% shooting from deep. But as of late, he has been shooting lights out, as since the month of February began, he has been draining his three-pointers at a ridiculous 43% rate while also shooting at high volume. And for the entire season, after 38 games, Lonzo is shooting 38.5% from deep on 7.8 attempts per game. While for sure, he was mostly known for his ridiculous passing skills and his capable defensive ability more than anything, and the guy wasn't really advertised as a great shooter, which was kind of valid because looking at it, he was a bad shooter during his Lakers years, only shooting in the low 30s in his first 2 NBA seasons. But currently, Lonzo Ball joins Steph Curry, CJ McCollum, Duncan Robinson, Zach LaVine, Tim Hardaway Jr., Paul George, and Malik Beasley as the only players this season who are shooting at least 38% from deep on a minimum of 7.5 attempts per game. And also, Lonzo has made more 3-point field goals this season than knockdown shooters like Trae Young, Jason Tatum, Bradley Beal, James Harden, Devin Booker, and even his own teammate Brandon Ingram. And definitely, his numbers are a big step up for a guy who's been known as a bad shooter since he entered the league. And 39% shooting from deep on almost 8 attempts per night is actually ridiculous. Lonzo is actually putting up numbers of a high volume, high efficiency 3-point shooter this season, and I think he's actually been doing that while Stan Van Gundy isn't really doing him any favors with how the Pelicans offense is being designed. And his improvement doesn't look like a fluke either, because looking at it, Lonzo's outside shooting numbers has been consistently on an upward trend year after year, which tells us that he's actually developing into a great shooter, and that is probably still going to improve considering that is only in his 4th season. Also, his free throw shooting has been a revelation so far. This season, he's shooting 77% from the foul line, which is a huge leap for him, because if you follow this guy's career, you'd be aware that he only shot 45% from the foul line as a rookie and only 56% last season. Lonzo is also shooting a career best 49.7% from 2-point range and also a career best 64% at the rim. Overall, he's averaging just above 14 points for the year on 42% shooting, which has also been the highest efficiency shooting rate of his young career. So basically, the numbers show that Lonzo is on the right track in terms of his development as a scorer because he has been improving his 3-point, effective field goal, and even his true shooting percentage consistently year after year up to this point. While on the other hand, his rebounding and assist numbers have fallen off quite a bit this season. His rebounding numbers are down to 4.2 per game from 6.1 last year, and his assists are down to 5.6 from 7 assists per game as well. But the explanation for that is quite simple. Lonzo simply doesn't feel the need to crash the boards this season despite him having the ability to do so. The Pelicans have the best offensive rebounding team in the league so far because of the Zion Williamson and Steven Adams front court, and this allows Lonzo to focus on leading the break and pushing the ball most of the time. And also, he's had to share the ball with Eric Bledsoe, who is one of the Pelicans' multiple ball handlers this season, which explains the drop-off in assist numbers. But overall, Lonzo still leads the team with a 2.8 assist to turnover ratio. He has also reduced his turnovers from 3.1 per game last season to only 2 per game currently. And his defense is still solid, as has been the case for the most part of his young career, as Lonzo's 1.3 steals per game ranks 6th among all starting point guards in the NBA. He's also averaging half a block per game, and we've seen him consistently being asked to guard tough assignments during late game situations throughout the year. And with all that said, the numbers also indicate that the team is actually better with him on the floor, as currently per NBA advanced statistics, the Pelicans are outscoring opponents by 12.2 points per 100 possessions while Lonzo is on the floor. And overall, he actually ranks 11th in the entire NBA in terms of real plus-minus rating this season, only behind guys like LeBron, Steph Curry, Giannis, Harden, and Nikola Jokic. And the numbers also indicate that Lonzo's playing time with the Pelicans' young core pieces has produced a positive impact for the team, as the Pelicans are scoring more than 120 points per 100 possessions when the three-man combination of Lonzo Ball, Zion Williamson, and Brandon Ingram share the floor together, which rating actually ranks first in the entire league for any three-man unit. Also, when that three-man combination is on the floor without Eric Bledsoe, the Pelicans are putting up a plus 16.5 efficiency rating and also a whopping 32.6 efficiency rating without both Bledsoe and Adams on the floor. So I think if you're the Pelicans, you definitely want to engineer a better roster surrounding those three core players, because the numbers suggest that their potential to win together moving forward is actually huge. And basically, I think if those numbers are the sole basis of offering Lonzo a max contract this offseason, then I don't see any reason why the Pelicans would have second thoughts with it. I mean, the guy has been improving in almost all areas of his game. He's also a positive player on the floor and has shown great chemistry with the Pels' other core pieces in Ingram and Zion. But of course, if you're the front office, there are understandable concerns, and the biggest one of them is the team's financial flexibility. While ideally, they can just sign Lonzo to at least $22 million a year, which is the amount that is reportedly demanding. But of course, it's not that simple. Even if the Pelicans somehow manage to unload Bledsoe's contract with a full lineup of Zion, Brandon Ingram, Steven Adams, and the rest of the team's guaranteed contracts next season, assuming that you offer Lonzo a $22 million a year deal, and assuming that you keep Josh Hart at least $10 million per year, the Pelicans would still almost max out their cap space, leaving them with only around $5 million to work with. And even if they happen to actually commit to giving Lonzo the amount that is demanding, there are still a lot more teams who have bigger money to offer him. While hypothetically, the Knicks can offer him a long-term deal on a range of $28 million per year if they choose to do so. But the beauty with the Pelican situation is that they can choose to match any offer that teams may come up with because Lonzo is an unrestricted free agent. And so I think this is where the question of production versus salary comes in play. While yeah, of course, it's easy to say that Lonzo still isn't worth at least $20 million a year even if his numbers have improved tremendously. But I think letting him walk in free agency would be a huge mistake for the Pelicans. And that's because for one, I think you have to consider the context that you're working with. I mean, at this point in time where Lonzo was shown that he can bring out the best in Zion and that he can actually thrive with Ingram as well, can you even afford to let a point guard of his caliber actually go? And if you look at it, if the Orlando Magic were willing to pay Markelle Fultz an average of $17 million a year, and if the Celtics are allowing Kemba Walker to occupy 30% of the team's entire cap space, it would just be hard to understand if the Pelicans would choose to let Lonzo walk in free agency. While sure, small market teams will always have to be smart in making long-term decisions and signing long-term contracts, but what would that actually make the team look like if they let go of a player who just had a career year? I mean, I'm pretty sure Sam Presti felt a little bit of regrets after OKC failed to lock James Harden up for at least a few more years, and so I think the Pelicans shouldn't make the same mistake as well. And the thing is, New Orleans isn't really a free agent destination, well, at least not as of the moment. So what are the actual odds of another point guard of Lonzo's caliber coming to New Orleans pretty soon? So if you're the Pels, why not continue building on what you already have? And besides, Lonzo is still very young and he has shown that he's a great value point guard who gives you spacing, playmaking, and defense, which are the things that you need to have around Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. And of course, Lonzo's still very young. It's ridiculous to think that he has already peaked. and so I think watching him develop together with Zion and Ingram would be really good to see. Well, the Pelicans have a lot of options. They can even execute a sign and trade if they still want to get some value out of Lonzo if they're not sold on him by the end of the year. Well, of course, Lonzo is still an unfinished product. He's a great playmaker and a tremendously improved shooter and scorer, but I think he can still work on things like his balance, his lateral adjustments, and how he organizes offense in the clutch. But of course, I think when choosing to sign players, you're paying not just for a guy's current abilities, but also for what you're projecting him to become in the future. And based on what Lonzo has been showing so far, and based on how he fits with Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, at least to me, he definitely looks like the Pelicans' point guard of the future. And that's why I think the Pelicans should keep him at all costs. So what are your thoughts on Lonzo Ball's future with the Pelicans? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below, and also please consider subscribing if you're new to the channel. Again, this is Real Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace!